On the 5th of October, back in 1992, REM released their 8th album, Automatic for the People. This is a super duper deluxe Blu-ray version of it. And this is a very important album. The fact that we're still talking about it all these years on shows how important it is. Now, with REM, when this album came out, this is the album when they became absolutely massive. I mean, they're already really, really big because they'd released Out of Time and Losing My Religion was on there. So they were getting played on the radio a lot. Now, where I used to live, you couldn't really get Radio 1 very clear on the radio, or I couldn't. So I used to listen to a lot of commercial stations. Invicta FM was my main one I used to listen to. And REM were getting played on there, so they were becoming a much bigger deal. Up until this point, I only really knew, obviously other than Losing My Religion, I knew The One I Love and The End of the World as We Know It. I really liked those songs when I heard them on the radio. But because everyone was massively into REM, I wasn't going to jump on the flipping bandwagon and be a fan of them. I've always had this thing where I like to like a band because I really like them. So if everyone's going on about, oh, you got to listen to this band, you got to listen to this band, back then I'd have just turned the other way and not listened to them, which was stupid. And as I said, I'm a massive fan of these guys now. I got into them later. But this album came out, and when I went back and revisited it, it's such a powerful album, this. I don't know what really, it's hard to kind of explain it really now, because obviously these songs are so ingrained into our life and everyone knows them. But I remember hearing Everybody Hurts, and that song struck a chord with me. I don't know why. It was just powerful. But it was the song, when I went back and revisited it as like with fresh ears, it was Drive, that song. And I think it's the strings when they kick in on that, it just takes it somewhere else. The strings on the album are produced by John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, which I think gives it that kind of like extra kind of texture that's going on with it. But as I've got older, I've appreciated other songs more on this. And there was a podcast, What Is Music podcast, and they did the entire REM back catalogue and they deep dived into it. And if you're an REM fan and you haven't listened to that, go and listen to that. It's so fascinating. They really, really give it deep dive treatment and what have you. But they said that this album, when they asked a couple of their mates what people were thinking about it, they said the album deals with loss. And it does, I think. And I've found a lot of strength in this album, especially this year. Especially the song Find the River, which is a very touching, powerful song. But there's so many songs on it, there's so many tracks on it that are just amazing. You've got Man on the Moon, Everybody Hurts, Drive, Night Swimming. It's just an absolutely amazing album. Now, normally at this point go, if you haven't heard this album, go and listen to it. But you will have heard this album, or you will have heard plenty of the singles on it. But it just goes to show that an album like this, still being talked about, still held in such high regard all these years later, how important a band REM were. And still are, to be honest with you. And the lovely thing is they're really looking after the back catalogue. As with this one here, I'll show you a little bit of this because it's really well packaged, this. Because you take the top bit off and this comes off. And then you have this here and it opens up. And you got a lovely, each band member's got a disc in there. And then you get this lovely book with this version of it. Which, notes, pictures, stuff like that in there. So that's a lovely addition of that. But yeah, a very important album, and REM a very important band, one of my favourites. And at some point I will probably dive deep into all their albums. But I just thought, as it's the anniversary of it today, happy birthday to Automatic for the People by REM.